Possibly the two most striking things about Prime Minister Modi's speech were that he took a very middle-of-the-road path when it came to projecting India. As Anand Mahindra put it, the softer side of India, the moral side of India is what he put out there. And he chose, therefore, as a corollary to that, to not to really hard sell India. It wasn't come invest in India, it was come believe in India. How did you assess it?
It was more than believe in India. It was actually sharing a very refreshing vision of India for the rest of the world, which is very rarely spoken about or discussed at fora like these, which tend to be much more business oriented. So it was about India, the democracy. It was about India, the multicultural society. It was about what India has to share with the rest of the world, with our experience in dealing with that complexity. With the rest of the world is dealing with similar kinds of problems. It was about inclusive growth. It was about sharing India's experience with delivering inclusive growth and the reforms that are being introduced to improve how inclusion is delivered, all the way from welfare reform to shifting the burden of growth on entrepreneurship and business. So I thought it was a very coherent narrative, one I've been writing about for some time, and therefore I'm very pleased with the way it came out.
Okay. If you recall last year, Premier Xi delivered a speech at a time when we were just coming fresh off the Donald Trump election campaign, the hardcore nationalism, the more inward-looking campaign that it was, right, the anti-globalization campaign. And then he came here and he took a stand that one is not necessarily associated as a core stand of China's, which is, in favor of globalization, in favor of a market economy of modern types. If you were to compare the message, Premier Xi was sending out with what Prime Minister Modi is sending out today, what do you think they're complementary in any ways?
Very different.
Yeah.
So President Xi was, without making too many bones about it, was trying to set China up as the next bulwark of globalization, which sounds a tad hypocritical. What the Prime Minister had to say today was that globalization is under threat for forces, for very real forces that are not easy to address. So he argued for a rethink of the narrative on globalization. He argued for, in parallel, improving conversations on a bilateral basis, effectively arguing for a multipolar world.
Yes.
And he made the case for democratization of global institutions, which I thought it's a long time, unrequited ambition of India, and very nicely set up India's role and contribution on the world stage.
Yeah, so I think what struck me was last year China was saying we're ready to take on global leadership or at least fill the vacuum that the West and especially the US seems to be leaving behind in the wake of the Trump presidency. What India seems to be saying is no one country should be filling that vacuum, that we need a more equal distribution of power.
Yes.
Is that the message you got from Prime Minister Modi? Is that a message that will resonate with this audience? Because Davos is the ultimate capitalistic audience. It's about who's the richest, who's the biggest, who's the most powerful. Will it resonate here?
Well, I think it's, whether it resonates or not, I don't know, but it's a voice that must be heard, and must be heard from a credible leader of a very important country.
All right, we'll leave it there. Thank you so much for your time. Have a great rest of Davos.